also, since you studied, let us start with that data structure, and slowly we will build up the other data structures on the top of it. Okay, so if you want to store the group of elements together at one place, then array is the one of the data structure that you are looking for. An array, you store the data in a continuous memory location, right? Suppose if you have an array of data, suppose this dotted lines is your memory location that you reserved. So you, all the elements will be stored one after another. So the first element is stored here, second element is stored here, third element is stored here, fourth element is stored here, sequence way, continuously in a contiguous memory location. All the elements are stored one after the other. So a group of elements, you want to store a data at one place, then one of the data structure that could help us really doing that is arrays. In arrays, you have one dimension, two dimension, multi-dimension arrays. Today class, we will discuss only about one dimensional arrays. In Thursday's class, we'll try to discuss two dimension array and multi-dimension arrays. That we'll try to see. So let us now try to understand what is one dimension arrays, which you are already familiar with, but also now try to understand from data structures and algorithms point of view. So a definition, array is a finite, ordered and collection of homogeneous data elements that you already studied. It's a collection of same type, same data type that you already know, right? So when I say finite, you need to have a limited number of elements. You have to define your array before you use them, saying that this many memory locations I want to reserve. Okay, you are declaring in integer a of 10, a of 50, a of 25 when you're using arrays in your C programming, which means that you are reserving those many memory locations in physical memory for doing some operations. You cannot have infinity number of elements. Okay, so you need to define array in finite number of elements, and it's an order. Ordered means the elements will store in a continuous memory location, one after another, in a linearly ordered fashion. In memory, the elements will be stored. Homogeneous, all the dates, all the data type, all the elements that you are storing in array is of same data type. It should be same data type only. If you are saying integer array, then all the elements are of type integer. If you are storing character array, then all the elements you are storing is of character type, right? So since the elements are stored in a linear ordered fashion, we call array as a linear data structure. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so when I'm discussing things, although you know about arrays, if you are not able to understand what I'm trying to say, please stop and ask me. Okay. So arrays can be defined in different programming languages. You studied in your first year only from C programming, but other programming languages also you can define arrays. For example, in BASIC, I can define my array as dimension A of 100. In Fortran, I can define dim A of 100, dim A of 100. Pascal, I can define A is my array of 1 to 100 of integer type. Okay. In C, you declare int A of 100, right? This is how you declare declaration or defining your array in various programming languages vary. It's not constant because you're declaring int A of 100 in C doesn't mean that it's the same way in other programming languages. They follow different patterns. This is a simple example. Now let us now try to understand some terminologies of an array. When I say size, size is the number of elements in an array. We call that as a size. It is also called as the length of the array or dimension of an array, right? So type of an array is the kind of data type it is meant for. For example, integer of arrays, integer of character strings, and so on and so forth. Base array, base is an array, base of an array is the address of the memory location where the first element in the array is located. For example, in this array of data, which is the first element?
453.
So 453 is your base address. Okay, this is the base. The array base, it starts from 453. So the base address is 453, right? So that's what I have explained here. So for example, 453 is the base address of an array in the mentioned figure 1. So index of an element can be referred as a subscript. For example, to access ith element, or you want to say that you want to access ith element, you can define a of subscript I or a of I in a square brackets. This is also called a subscript or an index of an array. So it's an integer value. I is an integer value, and an array elements can be identified by the subscript or index. That is why an array is also called as array element is also called a subscript or indexed variable. This is the index of an element, right? How you want to find an index of an element, how you are going to find the size of an array, index of an element in an array, I will explain in the next slide. Does this make sense as of now?
Yes, sir.
So you got a range of index. So range means you have to define your elements. We call the index sets. Okay, indices, lower bound and upper bound. You are defining your lower bound and upper bound, which are the boundaries of an array. Okay, so you can define your lower bound and upper bound in different way in different programming languages. So for example, you are using array in a Fortran, you are using dimension of 100, then the range of an index starts from 1 to 100. You are using C, in C programming int a of 100, the range will vary from 0 to 99. In array, in C programming, the array will start from 0th element, but in Fortran it will start from first element. In Pascal, you can define your array from negative to positive values. When I say a array of -5 to 10, you can put dot dot and 10, which means that your array is starting from -5th index. The first element is stored in -5th index, the second element is stored in -4, third element is -3, fourth element is -2, fifth element is -1, sixth element is 0, and so on and so forth, right? So the range of index is -5 to 10. You can define your array different way in different programming languages. Now, to find the index of an array or index of an ith element, or you want to find the how many elements in your array, this is the formula. So for example, I want to find say 10th element in Fortran. So what is my lower bound? Lower bound is I. I want to find the 10th element. My I is 10. A of 10th element will be located in lower bound is 1. 1 plus 10 minus 1. So you can find at the 10th location. You go to the 10th location, you will be able to find the 10th element in Fortran. What about if I want to find the 10th element in C programming? My lower bound is 0. 0 plus ith value is 10. I want to find the 10th element minus 1. So I will find the 10th element at the 9th location in C programming, right? Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
Right. So you want to find the 10th element in Pascal. What is your index? In this example, in this given example.
Uh, Not index, it's L. L is -5.
The sixth element.
Right. So upper bound is 10, lower bound is -5 plus 1. Right? Upper bound, sorry, this one, right? Lower bound is -5 plus 10. -5 plus 10, 5 minus 1. So 4. You will find the 10th element at the 4th position. Is this correct? -5, -4, -3, -2, -1, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4th position. At the 4th location, 4th index of the array, you will find the 10th element because your array is starting from -5. Right? So you'll find the index of an element using simple formula L plus I minus 1. Also, you want to find the how many elements in your array. The size of an array will be given by upper bound minus lower bound plus 1. So your upper bound is 100, your lower bound is 1 in Fortran for a of 100. Then the size of the array here is 100 minus 1 plus 1. So your size is 100. What about in C? Upper bound is 99, lower bound is 0 plus 1. So upper bound 99 minus 0 plus 1, 100. So when you define your size from lower bound to upper bound, you can calculate the size of an array. What is the size of an array in Pascal in this example? 10 minus of minus 5 plus 1, 16 elements. You are storing 16 elements in this array, right? So you can calculate the size of an array using upper bound minus lower bound plus 1, right? So word, when I say word it denotes the size of an element. For example, you declare what is the size of an integer in C programming when you studied?
4 bytes.
Right. So assume that each memory location in your RAM, one location will take how many bytes? You know? We don't know. It depends on the hardware. Okay, which hardware you are using depends. For example, you are using IBM CPU 8085. Then one memory location you will store 1 byte. But if you are nowadays Pentium Intel Pentium PCs, one memory location you can store 8 bytes. Okay, so how you are defining a memory location is depends on the word size. Okay, W. So in each memory location, computer can store an element of a word size. Okay, so that is W. So the word size in IBM CPU 8085 is 1 byte. Now you want to store integer array in IBM CPU 8085. How many words you need?
4.
2 words you need. Okay, because each word will take only, each memory location will take 1 byte, and sorry, if your integer is taking 2 bytes, then you need 2 words. When you are using, you are saying 4 bytes. Now you want to store that integer of array 4 bytes, then you need 4 words. Okay, now how many words you need in Intel Pentium machine if you want to store 4 byte of integer value?
Just half.
You can't say half. Okay, you say that one word.
So then
1 word. Okay, although some memory, so although one word can store here 8 bytes, but in one memory location you'll be able to store one element. You can't store 2 elements in one memory location, but you can store one element in 2 memory locations. That is possible. Is this clear?
yes.
Right. So the word size is important when you are storing in physical memory. So if the size of element is double the word size of a machine, then to store such element requires 2 consecutive memory locations. That's what I mean explaining. Right. So now how we will find, we will now, let us now try to understand one dimension array. We'll try to talk about one dimension array, then we'll stop. So if only one index or one subscript is required to reference all the elements in an array, then we call that as one dimension array or simply an array. Now how they are stored in memory? Suppose that M is the starting element memory location of an array, then the first element is stored at M. Then each element requires 1 word. Then the location of an element ER5 in an array can be obtained by using this formula, right? Suppose the address of the third element you can get from the starting address plus I minus 1. Okay, so for example, I will show you this example. So you want to access the third element. Your base address M is 453. What is the address of the third element? So
453 plus 2.
M plus I minus 1, right? M is 453, I is third element, 3 minus 1, 453 plus 3, 456 minus 1, 455. So the third element address is 455. Is this correct?
Yes, sir.
So you are calculating the address of the third element using simply this formula. If you know the first memory location. Okay,
Base address.
base address, right? Now this is assuming that each memory location will take only one value, correct? What if your word is taking one value, two memory locations? Then the index formula will change. Then the element, when you are storing one element in two memory locations, then the address of the third element will be changed, right? It will be not at 455, it will be at a different place, because one word you are taking two memory locations. Then the third element will be stored at fifth and sixth places, right? Does this make sense? Then your formula
Yes.
would be, address of A would be starting address M plus I minus lower bound into your word size. What is your word size? You have to define. So this is the standard formula. Once you know the word size, once you know the lower bound and the ith value, you add to that memory location, you will get the particular address of a ith value. So this is called indexing formula. This indexing formula will help you to map the logical presentation of an array to physical presentation. In logically presenting, one value will be stored at one location. We will keep on going. So this is the logical value. So the one value will store here, the second value, third value, fourth value. Logically, we are storing an array, one element, just like that. But in physically, the memory, when you're storing these elements in RAM, then it will take accordingly what is the size of each word, what is your starting memory address plus ith element minus L. So the address of each element is stored using this formula in the physical memory. Okay, so this is the logical view, this is the physical view. So the mapping function is how it carries out the ith element using M plus I minus L into W. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
You want me to repeat this again?
No.
Okay. Right. So you
Yes,
can
sir. Please
perform.
repeat one more time, sir, please.
Okay. See, logically, when I define an array, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, you will write just like that, right? You start your first element here, second element here, third element here. You will not worry about how many this element will take, how much of memory in RAM. You will not worry about that. Correct?
Yes, sir.
Logically, when you are trying to try to understand an array, logically you'll write one element in one memory location. But this elements, when you store them in a RAM, it depends on the mission, right? The mission is of say IBM CPU 8085, then it will take one word, one memory location. But if it takes another mission like Pentium, it will take 8 bytes. You never know what is the how many memory locations are there. Now for example, in this case, uh, so in this case, let us now say that integer of array element, you define 3 elements. Okay, integer type, you define 3 elements. Now each element takes 2 bytes. Now each memory location here is 1 byte. 453 location is 1 byte. 454 is location 1 byte, and so on and so forth. This is your physical memory location. Now you are defined an integer a of some value. Now you want to see that where is the third element. What is your address? Address would be how you define your address. May I know who asked this question?
Yes, sir.
May I know your good name?
Sir, Kaptan Singh.
Who?
Kaptan Singh, sir.
Patan Singh. Okay. Patan Singh say that
Captain
your
Kaptan Singh, sir.
What?
So the Hindi version of Captain Kaptan Singh.
Kaptan Singh.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Kaptan. Say your integer takes 2 bytes
Yes.
to store an element. How many memory locations you need to to store that 2 bytes here?
If one block is storing 1 byte, then for 2 bytes we require 2 blocks of memory.
Yes. So one element will take 2 blocks of memory. So where your second element is stored?
In the third block,
Yes. The second element is stored at 455, right?
yes, sir.
So second element will take how many memory locations?
So again 2, sir.
2 bytes. Third byte will store at which memory location?
At 455 and 456.
No, 457 and 458.
So with the third byte, yes, sir.
Okay. Now,
Yes,
how you see in logically you are storing one element in one block, but in physically it depends on your word size, right?
yes, sir.
So the now in this case, I want to see that what is the address of third element. If my machine takes 2 bytes to store one element, then what would be my third element address?
457, sir.
How do you define that?
So multiplied by 2.
Right. So that's what we are defining here. How we are storing the word size. Okay.
Yes,
Your memory location is 453. You want to access the third element. 3 minus your lower bound is
2.
uh,
0
lower
in case
bound
of C.
0. In case of array, it is 0. Or if it is 1 in Fortran, then you multiply that with number of words.
Yes, sir.
Right. So you calculate that, then the third element will stored in that location.
Got it.
So this is a logical view. We will write one element. This is the first element you will store, second element you will store, and so on and so forth. But the ith element, how we are storing physically, is depends on the word size. Now I want to find what is the address of the ith element. Then I need the memory location of the starting address. Then ith location, whichever the location I want to calculate, then lower bound into my word size. This is how the mapping function logically to physically RAM, how the elements are stored. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now the various operations can be performed on array are traversing, sorting, searching, insertion, deletion, merging, so on and so forth, right? So when I say I'm going to explain the algorithm for all these operations. So you can visit all the elements, that is traversing. You can sort, you can make your array of elements in an order way, ascending order or a descending order. You can search whether element is there or not. You can insert at a particular place where you want to insert in an array, or you can delete an element in an array. You can merge the various operations you can carry out. We will try to see how they are carried out in the form of algorithm in a pseudocode. Okay, so now I want to see, I will discuss what is traversing. So this is a process. A process could be a procedure to define element. I will explain this. So suppose this you want to do the traversing. I will explain this. I'll get back to you. So the traversing, I want to visit all the elements. So traversing means this operation will help you to visit all the elements in an array. So a simplified algorithm. So my algorithm is traverse array. I want to define my algorithm in traverse array. So my input is an array of A elements. My output is according to the process. So what is process? Process is what is a, we can define what is the process you want to do. Suppose my process is a procedure. We call that element can perform an action. For example, when I'm traversing, when I'm visiting all the elements, I want to display the elements on the screen. So this could be my process. Just the process could be printf a of I, could be one way, or I want to see that whether the array is empty or not. So I want to see if array is there or not. That could be another process. The process can manipulate some operations like I want to count special element of interest. For example, negative numbers in an array. I want to see in an array what are the negative elements. Then if I want to see what are the negative elements, then I have to visit each and every element from beginning to end, right? From the starting to end, I want to calculate, I want to see each and every element if there are any negative. So my process could be anything. You can define your own logic. This is your output. Okay, so the data structure what you're using is array, an array from L to U. What is L and U? L is a lower bound and U is an upper bound of an array index. Now you start with lower index I value. You go from lower index to upper index. L is I less than or equal to U. You want to print an element, then process of A of I. So print of A of I. You visited first element because I is the lower index. You visited that element, you do some operation, whatever you want. You increment, move to the next location. The next location will be stored at the next continuous memory location, right? Array is a continuous memory location. The next element will be stored with I plus 1. You go to the second element, you do that. You keep running this loop until you reach upper bound. Once you reach this upper bound, this condition will fail. You end the while, you stop the algorithm. Does this make sense? How we are traversing an array? You are visiting each and every element from lower bound to upper bound, incrementing one by one, and the process could be printing an array or finding the negative elements or finding an array is empty or not, whatever the process you define. Is this clear? This is a simple pseudocode. If you know the C programming, you will be able to understand very easily, right? Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
So tell me, what is the complexity of this algorithm?
Order of n, linear.
N.
What is n?
So linear complexity.
What is n? You said order of n. What is n?
Sir, here it is upper limit like u, sir. We are traveling u times.
Sir,
Right.
O of U minus L.
What? Yes. Order of u minus l from upper bound to lower bound. Or if you have n elements, your size. What is the size of your array? Those many elements you have to visit. Right? How you define your size? U minus L plus 1. So it's okay, U minus L. Okay. So means n elements. If I assume that you have n elements, then n is the number of elements or length of your array. When you define your length of array, then the complexity of your algorithm is order of n. When you say n, you have to define what is n. N is the length of an array. I'm taking class. The length of an array. Okay. So this is how you define the traverse of array. Or else in this case, if you want to define in terms of this, you have to define all the elements you have to visit. Then you say that the number of elements you can calculate the size. Accordingly, the order of size of an array is the complexity. Is this clear?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
Right. So now you want to sort an element. Now you want to sort means sorting will make you an array elements in a specific order, specified order, ascending order or descending order. Okay. The algorithm when you used to store the elements in an ascending order or descending order, you have to sort them, right? How do you sort them? You have an input array with an integer data. You can define your output with the sorted element in an order according to order. This order could be your ascending order or descending order. Depends on whatever you want. So the data structure will be an integer array with a l of u. See, define here. When I want to traverse, I define simply array. And sorting, I want to do an integer elements. So I'm defining my data structure as integer array A of L to U. L and U are lower index and upper bound of an array index. Now, how do you sort an array? You compare, right? You compare A of j with A of j plus 1. You see them in an order when whether they are in order or not. Okay. If you want to do them in ascending order, descending order, you compare these two elements. If they are not in order, you swap them. Okay. A of j will go to next position, A of j plus 1 will come to the previous position. You swap these two elements, right? You swap the two elements, right, by comparing the two positions. Interchange the elements between two consecutive elements. You compare them. Suppose you want this element is, you want to keep in an ascending order, then this element is greater than this element, then they are not in the perfect order, you swap them. So the lower element should come below, then the upper element should go above, right? So you swap the element. This is how the basic principle in sorting works. Now you start with an upper value till you reach the upper is greater than lower. You compare for all the elements j less than I. J is the lower, I is the upper. You check the order. If they are in the order, if they are in the order, if this is true, then don't do anything. If it is false, then swap them. If they are not in the order, if the order is false, then you swap the elements. If the order is correct, then don't do anything. This don't swap. End if. You do that for each and every element for all your array by comparing with all the rest of the element. Go to the next element, compare them. If they are in the order, don't do anything. If they are not in the order, you swap them, right? You keep doing till all your array. Then you have to do that for all the elements, right? That's why you are doing I is equal to I minus 1. You take one element, you compare them and make it in an order. This is a bubble sort algorithm. You are trying to put the maximum value at the end. So how many times, what is the complexity of this algorithm? Can anyone guess? Assume that you have array of n elements. Array of n elements. Your array size is n. What is the complexity of this case?
Sir, n square.
Right. So this inner loop will take order and comparing whether they are in the order or not. By comparing each and every element, it will take n times. Then you are doing for all the elements n into n. So almost it will take n square times. So the bubble sort will take order of n square to sort this array. Does this make sense? When you can implement this, you can define an array, try to apply this logic. Your lower index and upper index, define them. Lower index in this case, suppose you have 10 elements, then upper index will be I is equal to 10, your lower index will be 0, those j will be 0. So j less than or equal to I, you write the same logic, you compare them and swap, right? Swap you can write with using temporary variable or not temporary variable. So you can write and implement this code in C and verify whether it will be able to sort or not, right? So you can able to get in an ascending order or descending order. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So searching an element is also, we want to find whether the element is there in the array or not. So we want to find an element is there or in an array or not. Simple algorithm could be your input is the key element you want to search. Your output will be the position where you found that element, that the 5th position the key is there, the element is there, or 10th position the element is there, or it could be the element is not found in an array, saying that message on failure. So the data structure you are using is an array with from lower bound to upper bound again. Your lower index I am storing in an I. I'm taking two variables, location I want to find where is the element is there or not, and I'm using a flag. Found is equal to 0 is indicates that whether element is there or not. So I will compare from lower value I to upper value and found is equal to 0, I'll compare each element a of I. I is the lower bound, right? I is the lower bound. I'll compare with the key. If the key is same as the first element, if it is true, then I will change the value of found is equal to 1. Then the location will be the first element. I will stop this if loop. If this if loop is 1, then you can stop that. Then if found is 0, so you compare. If it is fail, then go to the next element. If this key is not with same as the first element, this if condition will fail, then go to the second element, compare with the key. If it is true, then change the value found is equal to 1, get the location. If it is not the second element, then go to the third element. You compare till you reach upper bound. You keep doing that. So if you found the first element found is equal to 1, now second time what will happen? This condition will fail, right? Found is equal to here 1. So this will become false. So the while loop will break. It will come here. It will see that if after this condition will satisfy only when the all the elements, if you search, still found is not equal to 1. You search, you reach upper bound. What is meant to say that the key is not there in an array, right? You reach in upper bound and found is still 0. You don't have any other element. Either one of this condition will fail, then this while loop will break. This is an AND, right? For AND, this both conditions should satisfy, right? You found an element at the first position, then found will be 1, location will be 1, it will go to while loop, this condition will fail, then the loop will not execute. It will go here, says that found is equal to 0, means that you search all the elements, your found is 0 only, then you reach upper bound, then element is not in an array, search is unsuccessful. If found is equal to 1, which means that the element is there, you print key is at the location I, you print the location I, you will get the location. Okay, so end if and return the location. Does this make sense? How we are finding an element in an array?
Yes, sir.
So what is the complexity of this algorithm?
So if number of
Sir, O
elements,
of n,
What is n?
sir, u minus l plus 1.
Right, your size of array. If in your array there are n elements, then worst case you have to find that you have to see and compare all the elements. This is called a linear search. Okay, this is a linear search. You are trying to compare each and every element till the end to make sure that element is not in an array. So worst case would be order of n. Best case is order of 1. Your first element could be the key. So the best case complexity is order of 1. Right? Is this correct?
yes, sir.
Okay. So likewise, we can do the insertion operation. When you want to insert an element in an array, you have to make sure that first it is not full, right? You define a of 10 and you have already 10 elements. You want to insert the 11th element, where you will insert? You don't know, right? So insertion operation on array works only if array is not full. If array is not full, then you can insert. If array is full, there is no place to insert. So you have to check first whether array is full or not. If it is not full, then you can insert. Now you want to insert at this position. How you can do that? So before inserting, you have to copy these values one push down. Okay, you have to copy this value here, this value here, this value here, and this value here, and this value here, right? Push down one stroke to make a room for the new element. Because once you directly insert element at this place, means you are overwriting that value. Then the existing value will be gone. You have to insert an element, then you have to make sure that the elements will be shifted first. Now how you shift? If you shift this element here, then again it will overwrite So before, when you are inserting an element, your last element should be shifted to the empty position, right? The last element A of U should be shifted first to the next position, then one after another you will shift, then this both values will be looking same. You insert the element at the particular position. So you have to push down one stroke to make room for the new element that need to be inserted. Does this make sense what I am trying to say?
Yes, sir.
So the algorithm will be insertion at the key and the location. Your input is the key item and the location is the index where you want to insert, and output is the array with enriched key, right? So your data structure is an array with lower unit and upper unit. First step, you will see that A of U, that is the upper bound, is null or not. If it is not null, then there is an element. The upper bound has an element. It is not null. Okay. So there is an element there, which means array is full. Then you say that print array is full, no insertion is possible. If A of U is null, then you go to the upper bound. From upper bound till the location, you copy the element. A of I will be insert A of I to A of I plus 1. Means the element here will go here. A of I element will be copied to A of I plus 1. Here this will come to A of I plus 1. A of I element will come to A of I plus 1. The next element, you keep that till you reach to that location. So you start with upper bound till you reach location. A of I element will be A of I plus 1. You decrement the I value, end while. Then once you reach this condition, your location at that place, you insert the key. A of location will be the key. Increment the upper bound by one value. Okay, update the upper index of an array. So that's how you insert an element. Does this make sense?
No, sir. Please repeat, sir.
Okay.
Explain it
Now,
again.
okay, see, you have 10 elements. Who asked this question?
Sir, Bharat.
Bharat say that your array size is 10. Your A of 10, you declared A of 10. Okay. Now you
Okay.
assume that you have 7 elements.
Okay.
Okay. Now you want to insert one element at the 5th position. What you will do?
Before fifth, I will keep as it is, and after fifth, I will like change the position by 1.
Right. So before inserting at the 5th position, the 5th position element go to the 6th position. The 6th position should go to the 7th position. The 7th position should go to the 8th position. Correct. Then only you will be able to insert that element.
Yes, sir.
So that's what we are doing here. So when you are moving an element from 5th position to 6th position, the 6th position element will overwrite. It will overwrite, no?
Yes, sir.
So what you do first, you go to the 7th position. 7th position will keep at the 8th position because 8th position has no element. So 7th position element you keep at the 8th position. 6th position you can now overwrite at the 7th position because 7th position is already written in 8th position. Okay. Now 5th position you can write in 6th position because 6th already you shifted to 7th.
Yes, sir.
Now you insert the 5th element at the 5th position.
Sir,
Hmm.
if we have the size of array as 10 and we have already 10 elements in that, then we cannot increase the we
No, you
cannot
cannot do that.
put
That's
any
what we are,
other editor, right?
no, you cannot do that. That's why we are saying that here the upper bound. You have 10 element. Your upper bound is 10, and your 10th element is not null. Means there is some value. then array is full. No insertion is possible. First, we are checking whether array is full or not.
Correct, sir. Correct.
If array is not full, then we are shifting the location a of I to a of I plus 1. Then we are going to that location, inserting the key. Because you inserted one element, your upper bound will be increased by one value. Is this okay, Bharat?
Yes, sir. Now, okay.
Okay. So likewise, the deletion can be applicable on a particular element of an array. The element will be deleted by overwriting its subsequent. You want to remove one element, then what you do? Suppose you want to remove this element. So what you do is simply overwrite this element with this element with another element. The next element should be overwritten with the previous element. So in this case, push up one element by one position. So this position you will keep overwriting before without any issues. So the last position will be repeating. You have to move your upper bound by -1. Does this make sense?
Yes.
So the element, whatever you are going to delete, you simply overwrite with the subsequent elements. In other words, push the tail one stroke up. Logically saying, you have to one element, one stroke up, you need to move that element. So this is the algorithm. You want to find the key. Key is the element to be deleted. Output is the slimmed array. That is, after deleting, what is your array? The data structure, lower bound, upper bound. First, you want to find whether whatever the element is there or not. You want to search an array with the key element in an array. If the element is not there, then you cannot delete, right? You want to find that element is there or not. The search array, if it returns 0, what is meant by that? If found is 0,
There is no element like that.
there is no element. If found is 1, then there is an element. So we are
That
comparing
element
with
is
found
there.
0 and found 1, right? Depends on 0 and 1. So you are writing an search array. If A is in the key, if it returns 1, then that element is there. If it is written 0, what is meant by that?
The element is not present in the array.
Right. So if I is equal to 0, then if I is equal to 0, then key is not found, deletion is not possible. Exit that array, exit the program. Else, from that position I to upper bound, you decrement. You just write a of I plus 1 to a of I. So a of I plus 1 will become a of I. A of I plus 1 will become a of I. The next element will become a of I. Right? A of I plus 1 will become a of I. Increment I. And while then a of you make it null. The last element you make it null. You decrement your upper bound to -1. Update the upper bound to -1. Does this make sense?
Yes, sir.
Right. So that's all we will discuss about one-dimension array. Next class I will discuss about two-dimensional, multi-dimension array, how to calculate the index, and rest of the things we'll discuss. After discussing n-dimension array, we will understand why we need linked list. Okay. So if you have any doubts in today's class, ask me. Meanwhile, I'll